Who will win the San Siro bragging rights? Tolu, it's another Milan derby. Milan versus Inter. Inter running away with the Serie A title as it seems. Because of their comfy points gap at the moment, can they get away with just a draw? Do they have to win this game? Is it all on Milan to reel them in?
It's all on Milan to reel them in, and it's a funny old season in Italy. I think they have come under the spotlight for the wrong reasons. Atalanta, the only team from Italy to make it into the round of 16 of the UEFA Champions League, which is quite astonishing, especially when you look at the fact that earlier in the season I thought it was going to be probably the most interesting title races in Italy for a long, long time. I think the top 5 or 6 were separated by 3 points at some point. When these two teams met in the reverse fixture of this derby, Milan's win saw them go 1 point clear of Inter, and Milan were in second at the time, and Inter is third. Inter are now top, 10 points clear of Milan, which shows you that a lot has changed. Inter are probably the most successful team in Italy for the last few years, and for them to get knocked out by Bodo Glimt in the UEFA Champions League almost shows you just where Italian football is at the moment. Was it a blip for all the Italian teams? Napoli didn't even get into the playoffs. It's difficult to say, but I think that this is a game that Italian football really needs Milan to win, because a defeat for Milan and it's curtains, to be honest. The 10 games left in the season. After that, there will be 9. If Milan do not close that gap, if Inter extended to 13 with 9 games left, then it's probably curtains. It's going to be really interesting, because Milan always seem to raise their game when they play Inter. And one thing that's been plastered all over Italian media throughout this week has been the battle between Luka Modric and Nicolo Barella, the Inter captain, which anyone who gets the better of the other will probably run the game. Modric had a really good game when both sides met in the reverse fixture. Barella, not the best of games. Arturo Martinez is injured. So there's the talk around the young Esposito, the striker, who has really shone a lot this year. I watched him against Arsenal in the Champions League, and he basically bullied Gabriel and William Saliba, and not a lot of people do that. So he probably gets the nod this weekend to start for Inter. But I think Inter know very well that no matter the Milan team they play, no matter where they're at, Milan always seem to get up for the derby. And that could be the situation, because I'm sure everyone around the world, including Italy, will be supporting Milan.
Well, it's such a unique derby, isn't it? Because of the shared ground, so you don't really have the home advantage that you would in, say, a North London derby. So, in terms of the areas where the game can be won, you touched on the midfield battle, but where else could the 3 points be really secured come the weekend?
Oh, I think a lot of players Christian Pulisic, Captain America, and Rafael Leao will be key for AC Milan as always. But I think the key man for Inter, I've talked about Nicola Barella, will be Federico Di Marco. He has got 20 goal involvements in Serie A this season. That's a huge number. I think the last time anyone did that, I think Massimo Odo, the great Italian player who ended up playing for AC Milan at some point. He probably will be key. I think his deliveries are wicked when they go into the area, especially when they've got the aerial threat of Francesco Esposito, who will come in place of Lautaro Martinez. I think that's where the threat will come. I think that Milan play without the handbrake, especially. I think Massimiliano Allegri has done a lot. He's experimented with a lot of systems, but I think the derby is something that he's really thrived on. I think he's only been on the losing side in the derby 4 times since he's been manager of both teams. So it's a very unique derby. And I think, like I said, Modric against Barella going to be very key. Di Marco out on the left with those crosses in, depends on where Pulisic and Leao play. Might force him to drop back a bit and do more defending, because if he doesn't do more defending, he'll be key to getting the service to Esposito inside the box. So it's going to be really interesting to see how Inter set up. But it's going to be even more interesting to see how Milan do it. Milan really start very slow. They don't particularly go gung-ho in games. Inter, on the other hand, under Christian Kivu, are known to start really fast. They know they can extinguish the fight if they get on Milan very early. A victory, like I said, will all but end the Serie A race. But I think Massimo Allegri is far too experienced to lose this one. I feel like Milan always seem to have the better of Inter, and this could be another situation. Despite Di Marco's goals involvement, despite Esposito being great in the air, I just feel like Milan will have a plan. I think Allegri will have a plan for this Inter team. And more often than not, when he sets up a team not to lose and to counter-attack, it usually always works.
Okay, Tolu, I'll get your take on how it's going to pan out in just a moment. I just want to circle back to how Italian teams have done in Europe lately. They've not done very well, bar Atalanta, as you rightly mentioned. When you couple that with Inter's huge lead at the top of the table, are Inter in danger of being that one big club in isolation and can't transfer their form into Europe, or is this kind of just a unique campaign where things are a bit disjointed? Are we seeing a new trend that we might need to worry about?
The big problem in Italy is actually that Inter are not as good as they were in previous seasons. The lack of quality, the players they've let go of and the players that have come in, they haven't particularly balanced the things that look. If you look up top for Inter, you take out Lautaro Martinez and the goals that he scores, they really haven't got. If you have to rely on someone like Francisco Esposito, the teenager, to come in and lead the line for a team as big as Inter, Marcus Thuram has been really poor this season. They went and bought Bonny from France. He also has been really poor this year. I think some of the transfer activity hasn't been the best. They tried to bring through a couple of players from the academy. That also hasn't worked. They still are the best team in Italy, but the margins, I think the league table is probably down to the fact that Inter have regressed a bit, but the rest of Serie A also haven't particularly improved. Milan did a lot of business in the transfer window, but it didn't get the kind of quality that you thought could challenge. That's what's leading to the rise of the likes of Roma and even Lazio, who are now starting to creep up the table. Napoli, who were champions just last season, you can see how they've dropped off really, really badly, and now even fighting to get into the top four. I think generally, Italian football is suffering a bit of a death of talent. I think in terms of wages and in terms of financial power and spending, I think they've been outspent by the Premier League, La Liga, even the Bundesliga now gets players ahead of the teams in Italy. It now almost has a feel of where older players who are coming to the twilight of their careers almost head to now. And that's not what you can say for Germany. Harry Kane left England and went to Germany to join Bayern Munich. You look at some of the young English stars who can't get into the team in England, they go all the way to Germany. You look at Jude Bellingham's brother, Joe Bellingham. You've seen Jadon Sancho also go over there a couple of times. But that's not what's happening in Serie A. Maybe if you take out maybe Philip Billing, if someone like Philip Billing who played for Bournemouth could be part of the championship winning team at Napoli and be a key guy, it tells you all you need to know about Serie A. I'm not saying Philip Billing is a bad player, but that just shows you just how much quality you have to get into that team. Billy Gilmore also plays at the Champions. So I don't think they're attracting the kind of personnel that they would have loved to. Look, we all grew up watching the Serie A and it was the number one destination. You watch AC Milan and Inter Milan play and you'd see players who were challenging for the Ballon d'Or on both sides. That doesn't happen now. I don't think any player from Italy can win the Ballon d'Or anytime soon. So it's almost like a reset has to happen in Italian football. And I think it's the start of a sharp decline. I really feel it is. They've been overtaken, obviously, by Spain and Germany. And if they don't watch their backs, even the French teams now could start to have a say when it comes to the Italians.
They certainly could. And of course, Italy still need to qualify for this summer's World Cup. So that downward spiral could continue even sharper. But Tolu, let's not worry about that. Let's worry about the San Siro derby at the weekend with your betting cap squarely on. Which way does this one go?
I think the only value here would go, I think it's probably going to be the popular score. I've done the simulation a few times and used the AI, done everything, and I just can't get my head around the draw. It looks like this one has a draw written all over it. Milan cannot afford to lose. Technically, they're the home team, even though they play at the same ground. I feel like Inter are still smarting from that defeat. They will still be champions, but I don't think they'll get the advantage that they need against Milan this weekend. I think Milan will do enough to show the rest of the league that they are the best of the rest after Inter, and I think they're good enough to get a point. So I think this one has draw written all over it.
Well, it seems it will only delay Inter's title party. Our party comes to an end this week, as Tolu's once again given us some fantastic insight. So until next time, Tolu, thanks as always.
Thank you very much, Dan.